I apologize in advance for my voice. I am very sick right now, so I'm going to try to get through this as clearly as possible. But this is my final presentation on my project, which covers the Huntsville-Madison County area and its land coverage and distribution. A little background information on the region. Madison is my hometown. It has a population of around 49,000 people. It's included in the Huntsville metropolitan area, which in total has a population of 460,000 people, one of the fastest growing cities in the state, and it has a size of 29.7 square miles. Majority of Madison is suburbia. There's a lot of suburban housing areas with some agricultural areas scattered in between, but my study area also includes some urban areas. Main crops are cotton, soybean, corn, and wheat, and Madison is in the humid subtropical climate classification with an average temperature of 64 degrees Fahrenheit with 56 inches of annual rainfall and a long growing season. The data I chose for this project was acquired on April 16, 2019, taken at approximately 4:23 p.m. to 4:24 p.m. GMT, which is Greenwich time. The map projection is UTM Zone 16, Path 21, Row 36, with a scene size of 170 kilometers by 185 kilometers. Landsat 8 has the operational land imager and thermal infrared sensor. Together they have 11 bands, but for my project I focused on bands 2, 3, and 4. And the satellite has a sun-synchronous near-polar orbit with an altitude of 705 kilometers. For my study area, I opted to expand it beyond the city limits of Madison. Madison is about this size, and you can see it's mostly just suburbs. So I wanted to include some of the other features of the region because Madison is a part of Huntsville, and part of Madison is growing out into Limestone County. So I included downtown Huntsville, Redstone Arsenal, some of the Tennessee River. Madison County actually stops on this side of the river, but I wanted to include some water. The airport, and some of the barren agricultural lands and undeveloped areas that are going into Limestone County, and they're now becoming a part of Madison. For my unsupervised classification, I used the ISO-data method. I used all of the default parameters, but I changed the iterations to 50 and bumped it up to 15 classes, which I then narrowed down to 6 defining classes that I felt like were appropriate for the region, which are urban and roads, barren land, forest, water or swamped, grass, and less dense forest. After I went through and adjusted the colors and correctly identified the classes, I clumped the classes together and used the sieve filter for post-processing on the urban class to get rid of some stray urban pixels that I knew definitely did not belong. When you compare the unsupervised image to the study area, you can tell that there's a lot of the barren classification in urban areas over here. And there is also a lot of water where there is clearly not water. So I definitely focused on that in my supervised classification. For my supervised classification, I spent a lot of time working on my regions of interest. If you go back to the study area, you can see a lot of the barren and undeveloped lands have a similar look to the urban areas. It's like very high white reflective coloring. So it took a lot of time to identify enough regions and be able to distinguish between those as best as I could. I ran maximum likelihood a few times, adjusting the ROIs until I came up with an image similar to this. Again, 6 classes. For post-processing, I used minority analysis on the water and swamp class because before post-processing, I had a lot of stray blue pixels, which a lot of these neighborhoods do have ponds and creeks, but not large enough to show up in the way that I had classified it. So I got rid of some of those. There's still a few stray here and there, but a lot less than there were. And then I ran the sieve filter on the urban class just to define some of these more suburban areas and define the roads a little bit more. My overall accuracy was 90.54% with a kappa coefficient of 0.86, which indicates a high level of agreement. My producer's accuracy was pretty high, on all of them except for road and urban and forest, um, the less dense forested areas. As you can see, if you compare the two, there's definitely a lot more um, less dense forest on my unsupervised than on my supervised. And my roads and urban, there's a large discrepancy between the two. Here on my unsupervised, a lot of the urban area was incorrectly identified as barren land, which I was luckily able to fix a lot of in my supervised, but that was one of the biggest differences I noticed. And a lot of the water, there was a lot more water identified in unsupervised than there actually is in this photograph.